Om Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnur Gurur Devo Maheshwarah Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Before we get started, I actually remembered something just now. As my Om was very short, I was just now thinking it was not long enough. I learned in my yoga guru that when we chant Om, if we are doing it for our own practice and our own meditation purposes, then O is longer and is like, A, U are longer and M is short. And if we are doing for Loka Sangrahanam and we are doing as a group, then the A, U are shorter and is longer. So I was just thinking, I caught myself keeping it way too short. All three Bijaksharas were short. When I said that, I was chanting, and then I thought I'll just share it if anybody is interested in that information. Okay, we'll get started. Shloka 55. Who would like to chant this one?
I can. 51. I can.
Go ahead, Anuji.
Okay. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinah janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gacchantyanāmayam. Buddhi yuktah, those who are endowed with the proper attitude of karma yoga. Manishinah, the wise. Karmajam, that which is born of karma. Phalam, result. Tyaktva, giving up. Janma bandha vinirmuktaha, free from the bondage of birth. Anamayam, free from all afflictions. Padam, the end that is accomplished by knowledge. Moksha, he, knowledge, moksha, he indeed, gachanti, go to. The wise endowed with the attitude of karma yoga, having given up the results of action, free from the bondage of birth, indeed accomplish the end that is free from all afflictions. Suppose a karma yogi gains knowledge and thereby gives up all the karma phalas, that is, all the punya, papas. Does that not mean that the person is empty, possessing nothing? Will he or she then be a nobody? At least if such a person had gathered a lot of punya, he or she would have been an entity to be reckoned with. But now it seems that the person will be empty. This assumption is refuted in the present verse. People who are endowed with karma yoga buddhi first gain antahkarana shuddhi. Then knowledge takes place, which results in the giving up of punya and papa. Giving up the punya and papa, and as mentioned in the previous verse, karma phalam tyaktva, he gains moksha through knowledge. The first line here is a restatement of the previous verse and connects it with the previous verse and tells that the karma yogi also gains moksha eventually. Birth is bondage. How do karma yogis give up the results of action? A karma yogi having sameness of mind towards the desirable and the undesirable results of actions is said to give up the results and in time becomes wise. Such a person gains self-knowledge and is a manishi or a jnani. Having become a manishi, the person becomes free from the bondage of birth and becomes janma bandha vinirmukta. When the doership is not there, the result of action will also not be there. The result of punya papa is janma, birth, which itself is bondage. You cannot say that you're only bound after birth. You are bound inside the womb. No matter how much you twist and turn, you have to wait 9 months before you can come out. Thus bound you are born. Once you are born, you're also bound in that you have to wait at least another 18 years to have a life of your own. After that, of course, you're bound to 100 different things. Therefore, birth is bondage all the way. From this bondage of birth, the wise are liberated. Shankara makes it quite clear here that liberation doesn't happen after death, but while you are living. He says, Jivantah eva vinirmuktaha. While living, they are liberated. Unless you are liberated now, while you are alive, you are not going to be liberated later when you are dead. All that you can be is a ghost. If you are liberated here, there will be no problem to yourself or to others. But if you are not liberated and you become a ghost, you will be just another entity knocking around for people to channel through. Here in the world, you confused people by giving wrong advice and so on. And then later, as a spirit, you come through the channels, continuing to give out wrong information. So it was said that while you are alive, you are completely freed from the bondage of birth and death, commonly referred to as the cycle of samsara. You may say that you do not care whether you are born again. If it happens, fine. And if it does not happen, that too is fine. You're only interested in right now. You're not interested in any investment for later, since no one knows what later really is. After death, all you see are the ashes, nothing more. And if the body is not cremated, it is buried deep enough that there is no chance of your coming out, even if life is still there. Grass will be planted on top so that there will be no chance of oxygen reaching you. This you know very well. Whatever happens after death is a matter of belief alone. Some logic may be there, but still it's only a belief. You are only interested in what happens here. You do not care if your karmapalas go or not. How do you know if punya papa is really there for you? Therefore, you do not care about all this, but you do care about your harmony with the world, and you can understand the value of sameness of mind towards the results of action and discretion with reference to the choices involved in your actions. These things are all very clear to you, but please do not tell me that you will be freed from birth and death. You do not care about all that. You're only interested in what you can get now. This could be an argument. This is being answered now. Thank you, Shriji.
Awesome. So we'll continue here. I think that was a bit straightforward. And we'll come back and then we'll just take it as stepwise. This is a beautiful, beautiful shloka where Bhagavan gives, like, 4 different steps. So we'll talk about that. Who would like to read from here?
I can.
Please go ahead, Tataji.
Liberation is not after death. This verse tells us what we can accomplish here while we are alive, not in the form of sense gratification, but in terms of a pursuit that is meaningful in this life itself. The word pada here means, or is it pada? Is it pada?
Pada.
The word pada here means
Pada.
that which is to be accomplished. It also means a word, that by which something is known. Mere sound is not pada. From the word, a given object must be understood. What I say, you must be able to understand. Then only is there a language. The word has a meaning, and that meaning is understood by everyone. Any word in any language is a pada. It is not used in this sense here in this verse. Here it means that which is accomplished by knowledge. The word
So can I
pada
just
in
pause
this,
here to just
yeah,
make it clear for everybody? So pada means we also know, like, words are called padas. So Swamiji is trying to explain that in this context, padam gacchantyanamaya is the shloka, that quartlet of the shloka. So that the word that Bhagavan used, pada, is not for word, but it is the destination, the goal. So that's what he's explaining. So you can kind of ignore this because we know in this context it's probably not talking about a word. Okay, go ahead, Taraji.
the word pada in this sense is famous in Sanskrit literature. For example, there is a mention Vishnu Paramam Padam, meaning the greatest abode of the Lord Vishnu, the one who is all pervasive. That all pervasive Vishnu Padam is moksha, liberation or freedom, and that freedom is gained now while living. In the verse under study, pada is qualified by another word, anamaya. Any problem is called amaya. Anamaya is defined by Shankara as that which is free of all problems, sarva upadrava rahita. This includes all the problems starting from nagging onwards. Any kind of affliction is called upadrava. Thus, anamaya means that you are free from all afflictions. I'm afflicted is a notion that everyone has. I'm a product of my own past, and therefore I'm afflicted. Everyone has this notion about himself or herself, and from this notion the person becomes free. Knowing that I am limitless Brahman, I'm not afflicted by anything because there's nothing other than Brahman. There is nothing else to afflict me. Therefore, I am free of all afflictions. When? While living here in this world. This knowledge then is really something. It is more than just something, it is the thing. And whatever we do is only the purpose of gaining this knowledge of oneself. In the next verse, Krishna told Arjuna that he would attain this when his mind was no longer deluded.
Awesome.
Yadhate, sorry.
We'll just take a little pause here. So, pop quiz. Can anybody tell me where the source of this Vishnu Paramam Padam? I thought Anuji would know. विष्णोः परमं पदं सदा पश्यति सूरयः दिवि वचक्षुराततं तद्विप्रासो विपन्यवो जागृवागं सस्समिन्धते विष्णोर्यत् परमं पदम्.
Purusha Suktam, Sriji?
Yeah, it's in Vishnu Suktam or also part of Purusha Suktam too.
Okay.
Okay, so just little tidbit there. So let's look at the shloka, and we will come to this, and we have talked about this in the past as well, that there are two things when we talk about moksha or mukti. There is videha mukti, which is what is more popular, right? People think, oh, mukti is after death, but there is a jivan mukti, which is to be liberated here and now. As soon as we understand the reality of who we are, then we get liberated from the cycles of sorrow and what we analogized as the hamster's wheel. So we'll go back to the shloka for a minute. So here Bhagavan is actually talking about 4 steps. And based on what we were chatting on the forum, I felt like I need to kind of do this as stepwise. So if you want to have action items and takeaways from each of our sessions, it might be easier. So let's see if this kind of works. This shloka is very, very nice example of that. Here Bhagavan is saying, for the first one is like the karmajam buddhi yukta hi. Step 1 is be a buddhi yukta. And let's think about what that buddhi yukta is. A karma yogi gives importance to artha kama. So a karmi and karma yogi are two terms that we have talked about in the last session. A karmi is somebody who is purely focused on here and now. And as Swamiji was explaining, I don't know if there is punya papa. I don't know if I would get another birth or not. I don't even know if I would there is a swarga or not. I don't know what the future would look like if I'm being given this opportunity. So I'm going to focus on security and enjoying like pleasures, or I'll make money and I'll enjoy it, and then we'll see about the later stuff at a later time. So that is a karmi philosophy, and nothing wrong with that, because we actually talked about everybody gets their chance on starting to think about the higher intellect stuff that will lead them to the questions about who am I, where do I fit in this whole equation, who is Bhagavan, what's me, the triputi that we keep talking about, me, the jiva, jagat, and paramatma, and those questions will come for everybody, and everybody goes through their own cycle. So karma yogi, of course they don't need, our shastras don't say give up on artha and kama. That's why they said dharma, artha, kama, moksha in that sequence. So while you keep your artha and kama as a priority, but your importance now shifts. You give more importance to dharma and moksha, because you understand the artha and kama is superficial. It will come today and it will go tomorrow, and you continue to chase it, and you have already done that chasing, and you understand that any happiness that you are receiving from it is very limited, and you're looking for atyantika sukham, or the eternal peace and serenity and happiness. So therefore you put more emphasis on the dharma moksha as you are continuing your life with the in pursuit of artha and kama. And this change comes when we have some we have seen in the past nitya anitya vastu viveka is an important term in Vedanta. What is permanent and what is impermanent, you are easily able to distinguish those two. And what is permanent is Atman, Brahman, and what is impermanent, everything else, including this body. And you know how they say aparichinnam is the word that is used for Atma, describing Atma, which has no bounds. And parichinnam is with limitations. And what kind of limitations? Desha, Desha parichinnam, Vastu parichinnam, and Kala parichinnam. So, Kala Parichanam is I was not there before, I'm not going to be there in the future. I have this short amount of time, how much ever my lifetime is, and I am only limited to this part, this time alone. I don't know future, I don't know the past. That is Kala Parichinam. And Desha Parichinam, I am here, I am not elsewhere. I'm not in my office, I'm not in my brother's place or anywhere else. I am here at this moment. So I'm limited by space as well. And Vastu Parichinnam means I am a human being, which means that I am not this table, I am not that tree, I am not a bird or an ant or something else. But that is my limitation. That is the Anitya. And what is Nitya? That we keep talking about, the substratum that covers everything from end to end in the whole universe. That consciousness is the Nitya. So based on understanding of Nitya, Anitya, Vivekam, so you actually understand that. And then you also, I'm going to probably do a pop quiz here. And please feel free to answer. Don't hesitate. We are all students and we are all learning, and you're all an intellectual group. So even if it is, you know, if it's wrong, that's totally fine, right? Like we learn from each other. Shreyaha and Preyaha. Shreyas and Preyas. Does anybody remember these two terms?
Shreyas is the one that is, I hope I'm not getting confused between the two. So that's the one, it's good for you and it's the sattvic way of doing things. Prayas is like wanting earthly things.
Yeah, correct. Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Preyas is the material pleasures that you're seeking or material things that you're seeking, and Shreyas is seeking beyond. So, understanding the Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha and Shreyaha Preyaha Vivekaha, by doing this, you have a proper attitude towards life. And what is that attitude? Swamiji says, inner growth is equally or more important than money and pleasures. So this is called as Buddhi Yukta, the one who puts dharma and moksha as priority as we are continuing to pursue artha and kama. So that's step one. Then step two is karmajam phalam tyaktva. See, param phalam tyaktva. So manishinaha is in second set, like, you know, another set, step three, that one step three. So phalam tyaktva. So we are saying not giving importance to material results, but giving importance to inner growth. And you are not attached to the result as you're continuing your pursuit in your life. You're just doing your duty. And with this, you know, the sequence of importance on the different purusharthas, and you don't really worry about what is going to be the result, as we have previously seen in 47th shloka. Most of the times we don't even have that result in our control. It's 50-50 anyway. So we don't get attached to the phalam, sorry. Step 3 is manishinaha bhava, is bhutva, is what Bhagavan is saying. In this case, so the first two stages are not sufficient to reach the ultimate goal. In this case, you are trying to achieve the maximum growth that is possible. So manishinaha, or is nothing but jnani. Everybody needs to grow, and that's what, you know, nature does, right? Like, you know, Swamiji here explains with a seed, and that grows into a plant, and that grows into a tree, and then it just benefits everybody by just, you know, having leaves and flowering flowers and fruits, bearing fruits, and that is helpful to others. So growing intellectually as a human being, that is our right. Other species don't have that possibility. But how much do we grow to our maximum? And what does that look like? The universal love is emotional growth. And we should attain maximum intellectual growth also, which is the discovery of the answers to the fundamental questions like who am I, and what is this world, and is there a God, and what is that God, etc. So those kind of questions, so that jnani or manishinaha, somebody who's trying to to gain Atma Jnanam, and also to understand the common thread in the whole universe. So your compassion for the whole universe is so much more than in individual or family. You're now looking at everything in a much larger view. That's step 3. Step 4, Janma Bandha Vinirmuktaha. So this one, as a result of all of these 3 steps, as a result of this knowledge, they are freed from all shackles of samsara. So the transmigration of repeated births and deaths or mortality can be called as shackles. And we talked about punya and papa as shackles too, whether it is iron shackles or golden shackles, they're still shackles either way. So getting rid of all of those is the ultimate goal for continuing to gain that jnanam. As we gain the jnanam, we get rid of the punya and papa, and as a result of that, we get rid of the birth and death cycles. So janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gacchantyanamyam. So they'll go to moksha. The padam is goal. They will attain moksha. Does that help? Then we move to 52.
Sriji, I just wanted to know,
Sure.
like all the Swamijis and all, so many examples are there, like Ramakrishna Ji, and they have got that self-knowledge, they got the jnanam.
The Swamijis?
Mm.
Yes.
So many Swamijis are there, right? So they have received, they have got that the knowledge, they've got that jnanam.
At least all the Swamijis that I know did. I don't know if there are other
No, it's
Swamijis in
like,
the... Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that's what I'm just thinking, right? So it's coming back to the question. It is in my mind. Like, what are the symbols? How can we quantify this kind of gaining of self knowledge? So I was thinking
So
on
I
that.
will ask you
Okay.
the question. So what is the self-knowledge, Padmaji?
I don't know. We are learning all this thing. The self-knowledge is, we are learning in the Bhagavad Gita that there is the Atman and then there is a Paramatman, right? We are all the one behind. So self-knowledge, I am thinking, I don't know. I'm just thinking that it might be that knowledge that we are all one, or for all the same power, or we are all of the same unit. That is according to me.
Yeah. So the Mahavakya Jnanam, right? So when we talk about in Advaita, what self-knowledge is in any, whether it is Advaita or Visishtadvaitam or Advaitam or any of the others, the ultimate thing that they're trying to teach is the relationship between Jiva and Paramatma. So what is Apara and what is Para, and what is the connection between the two? And we have been given this Mahavakya called Aham Brahmasmi, or say my guru is talking to you. So if your guru, say Satya Sai Baba, has spoken to you in person, and he would say in those terms, Tattvamasi, you are that. And then your jnanam, your realization would be Aham Brahmasmi. So I understand that I am not this body, I am not this sense organs, I am not this mind. I am beyond all of these tattvas according to tantric language. I am beyond all of these tattvas. I am the consciousness. I am the awareness. And this awareness is independent of all of this body, mind, organs, sense organs, and my pranas, pancha pranas, koshas, etc., etc. In how many ever ways we know sapta dhatus, mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, etc., etc. I am beyond all of this. It's just like how something is shining light on it. So if I have my hand is here, because the light is shining light on it, you are able to see my hand. Similarly, the consciousness is the one that is enlightening or enlivening my presence as this body. Otherwise, my body is going to be organic matter, just like any other organic matter that exists. But what makes it alive is that consciousness. And that consciousness, when I'm asleep, that consciousness is continuously available and is there permanently throughout, in the past, in the future, and it's going to be in the present. But what is limited by the space time, etc., is my body, and everything around me will perish, but the consciousness will continue to stay. So I have two options to think about. I can say, there is Bhagavan, I am here, because I am seeing myself as this body, mind, and soul. Sorry, body, mind, and sense organs. So I can say, yeah, that's, I have my, clicker here. So this is Bhagavan and I am here. So there is a distance between the two. And completely fair, because I'm associating myself with my body. So this is considered Dvaitam. And Visishtadvaitam says, there is Bhagavan, but I am a part of that Bhagavan, because, without him, I wouldn't exist at all. Without my father, I wouldn't be there. So Bhagavan has created me, so I'm a piece of him. So in that case, I have a closer relationship with him because I am emerged from him. So that is when I'm looking at myself as a part of the whole universe, and which is totally fine, because I cannot be Bhagavan, I cannot do what he does, right? Like, he is absolute and I'm a very small relative part in this, and therefore that also makes total sense. But if I connect myself with the consciousness that is him, he is not, somebody with a body and somebody sitting on the clouds. If I see him as his presence as across the universe, as a substratum, and he is connecting all of us, and he exists here in front of me as consciousness, and he is me talking through me, and he's making my words come out, and he's the one through my eyes who is making my eyes see. Then if I am associating, because that is in me, if I am associating myself, the one that is speaking is the awareness and not this organ called mouth, then that's called Advaita. And this is Brahmajnanam in all the three, Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Advaita. And as soon as you heard this, you already got self-knowledge. Whether you execute on it, whether you forget it, whether you want to retain it forever in your life and transform your life, is totally up to each one of us. So what Swamiji's do, and what Shankaracharya always says, as soon as I have said this, you already got the knowledge. What was supposed to be transferred to you, supposed to be the most, Chidambara Rahasyam, has already been given to you. Whether, and that's where I actually mentioned previously about the two, Parokshanubhuti and Aparokshanubhuti, right? It's a Paroksha Jnanam, which is external to me. Oh, I have heard it, but I am not, associating myself with my Atman every moment of the day, which is not possible when we are living a Grihastha life, and that's totally fine. But keeping that as the backdrop of everything, that's what Swamijis are able to do, because that's the lifestyle that they choose to do. But if somebody is doing, running a whole import-export business, and I'm not naming anybody, and have other things that are more artha kama oriented and less on their focus is not on necessarily moksha, then they are choosing their battles on how they want to use the knowledge that they have received. Does that make sense? Does it answer your question?
Sriji, go ahead.
I have to really think a little bit more on this, because for me, ultimately, it is coming down to one simple principle that that you're looking at the oneness. So you are doing your very best, no matter what you're born as. You're born in Grihastha, you're born in any family, that thing, this thing. You're doing your very best, and let God take care of the rest. That kind of a surrender, when we do, I feel that is an easier path. Maybe I won't know big Vedas or big knowledge or big studies, but that path, when I am doing my best and I'm leaving it to God to take care of the rest, that surrender, that will take me to that path of self-knowledge too. That is a very simple path for the way I'm seeing it. Because I don't know anything else to do. If I'm a CEO, my mind has to work in those directions that the world is expecting me to behave that way. If I'm a house, I'm a mother, I have to work this way. If I'm a wife, I have to work this way. So I have multiple roles, right? So we can't change our identity. So what I feel is, whatever we are doing, I'm going to be doing my very, very, very best. and leave it. That's it. I won't have tomorrow a moment that say, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done this better. No, I'm not going to have any regret. That is the way I'm going to conduct my life. So I feel that path of doing that will take me to this knowledge, will take me to this self-knowledge. I don't know whether I'm right, but my guru is always told that, and I'm beginning to make sense of that. I was just wondering why, right? There are so many multiple pathways, and now I'm getting a clear picture of that, the different pathways.
And exactly. So you are right. And that's what Bhagavan has been saying, and that's what this commentary has been saying too. And the way you put it, like, do your best and don't worry about, let Bhagavan choose to give you the result. That's the Ishvara Arpana Buddhi and Ishvara Prasada Buddhi that we have been talking about, which is the formula for Karma Yoga. And Karma Yoga leads you to get Antahkarana Shuddhi, to prepare your mind enough to receive the knowledge in its full absolute measure. So when we talk about multiple paths, or if that is the only thing Bhagavan said, like, just give me, do Sharanagati and that's about it, and you don't need to learn anything else, then he wouldn't have taught us the first set of shlokas. As soon as he started Gita Shastra, he taught us who we are. He kept saying, you are the Atman. And he also introduced, Matra Sparshas tu Kaunteya Shitoshna Sukha Dukkadaha. He immediately started Karma Yoga on the 14th shloka. But he started Gita Shastra as giving this Mahavakya Shastram for us, the Atma Jnanam for us from shloka 11. Until 25, he kept nailing the same point, who we really are. So there are no two paths, and that's what, even Bhagavan will say in the 3rd chapter, and Shankaracharya is telling us multiple times that there are no two paths or 4 paths, like, Bhakti Yoga is different, and, Raja Yoga is different, and some Tantra Yoga is different. There isn't anything like that. There are 2 paths. One, you are a Karma Yogi, and by being a Karma Yogi, you will do your actions based on what is the best duty in every different scenario that gets presented to you based on your Purva Janma and your karmas. And then leave the result to Bhagavan. You don't expect results. You don't expect, appreciation from anybody around you. You just do what is supposed to be done. And in a very nice, pleasant way, and you see Bhagavan in everything. And then based on that, the mind will be purified, and the first set of shlokas from 11 to 25 will start making sense. But what he will say is, once you have attained that jnana, once those start making sense, you cannot say, oh, I'm not a karma yogi anymore, I am a jnana yogi. That doesn't make sense. That is not how it works. We continue to be a karma yogi and live the path of the same yogic style and much more elevated, because we are able to maintain this as the backdrop of every activity on who we are. So it is not changing me as, oh, I'm going to keep my body aside and therefore I'm going to communicate with you as consciousness. That's not how it works. So I'm going to live in this body. I'm going to live as Shri. I have my work to do. I have my family to take care of. I have, everything. I have my studies to do. But my view on how I approach it will continue to transform on a day-to-day basis. And this doesn't happen overnight. And maybe for some yogis, it'll happen overnight. But somebody like me would take, decades to do this. Over a period of time, I'll keep transforming, and my antakarana starts getting cleaned. And, think about that analogy. I think Satiji shared at some point that, the basket keeps getting cleaned as we are fetching water. It might not retain everything that I'm hearing every day, but over a period of time, at least my mind will get cleared. You're absolutely right. Karma yoga is the first step.
So we should be consider ourselves. We should consider ourselves as blessed to be in families that has supported the faith and prayers. So we've got an early start to this. That is how I'm looking at this. Rather
absolutely.
than in the whole samsara, it's so difficult with all the different pulls of different outside living. If we miss that connection, we're going to take a long time to even start that process, So
Absolutely. Yeah. Punya Purva Janma Sukritam. And that's why, Shankaracharya says it takes, Shatakoti Janmas to actually be born as a human being. And because he has to say it in those days, it's only like men who used to be able to chant Vedas. So he says to be born as a human being, to be born as a man, to be born to be able to study Vedas, to actually even study, and then they start making sense to you. So that's that's a blessing. And he says on the path of moksha, somebody who actually wants to achieve moksha itself is very, very rare. And even Bhagavan says, Jan, oh, I have this sloka almost like, I keep these keep occurring to me, and somehow when I want to talk about these in the class, it won't occur to me. Krishna, maybe Bhaskar ji can remind me which sloka I'm thinking about. मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु
Yes.
कश्चित् यदति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन् मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः. So there are so many thousands of people who actually can think about moksha, and out of them there are very, very rare people who actually attain it, is what Bhagavan says.
I think like this, every family, children, husband, wife, everyone should go through these courses together so that the path becomes much easier rather than, one understanding, one not understanding, and then trying, okay, you do what you want. This is how I remember. So if everyone doing together, it's so easy. It just becomes quick, right? To understand.
I know. Actually, I go a step further and I say this should be part of curriculum in schools.
Yes. We in India, some universities have the Bhagavad Gita courses and everything. Definitely,
Yeah,
they
I'm
have
actually
a
like
whole
thinking
paper.
in primary school it should start from there. We used to have like I studied in India obviously, so we had Sanskritam from I think grade 1, as well as there was something called as a moral science in those days in my school. So we never
Yeah.
understood the but it was like in story format they used to teach dharma, which was really nice. Now that I think about it, but Gita should be in school.
Actually, we
Sorry,
have
Anuji, Anita ji or Tara ji,
I
somebody had it.
no, it's I had a question. So I understand the difference between Advaita and Dvaita, but what is Vishishta Dvaita? I don't think I understand between Dvaita and Vishishta Dvaita, the difference between the two, because they both sound similar.
They are similar, but not necessarily. So think about Dvaita as you need to walk to reach Bhagavan because Bhagavan is sitting there and you are here. You need to take steps to go there to see him. Okay? And Visishta Dvaita, he is everywhere and I am a small part of him. It is very close to Advaita.
Okay.
That's why it's called as Visishtadvaita, right? It's not Visishtadvaita, it's Visishtadvaita because it is very, very close in terms of none of them are wrong, none of them are varied paths, and all the gurus, if there is a new philosophy like this that needs to be established, the gurus actually have to do bhashyams on the Prasthanatrayam, and the Prasthanatrayam is Bhagavad Gita, the Dasha Upanishads, the 10 topmost important Upanishads, and there's something called as Brahma Sutras. So they have to write commentaries so everybody has extracted from the same scriptures and have written commentaries, but their viewpoint is different. And that's why I shared that shloka from Hanuman, who actually nicely condenses it into a shloka. If I am looking at my deha, that if I'm associating myself as deha, that you are my Bhagwan, I'm your dasa, absolutely, like I'm at your feet, I'm and I need to reach you. But if I see myself as a small part of you, as a jiva, of course, you are you are Paramatma and you have many jivas and I'm one of them. But if I see myself as the Atman, as the consciousness, then there is no difference between, my consciousness is not different than your consciousness. I don't want to use the word force or anything like that. The awareness that I am alive. Let's think about it that way. I am awake. I am looking at this laptop. I am speaking. There is this awareness in me that knows that I am speaking. So that awareness is not different between you, me, or 100 other people or a million other people. What, some in Krita Yugam, that is the same awareness. In 400,000 years, when the Kali Yugam is about to end, people will have the same awareness. So from a time, place, space, consciousness or awareness is the same awareness throughout.
Guruji, can we
Yeah.
say in that sloka, the first phase where Hanumanji says, I am thy servant, that's Dvaita. And the second one where he says, I am part of you, is Vishishtadvaita. And then the
Correct.
last phase is the Advaita itself.
The third line is
No,
Advaita.
Yeah, exactly.
Bhaskar, that's exactly what I thought too when Shriji was explaining now.
Yeah, that's why I actually posted it. I don't know if I made it clear in that shloka or in my explanation of that shloka. So where I said the first part, the second part, the third part, and those are the different philosophical ways of looking at this. I will not say, these are matas or anything like that. There are different words that get used. I don't know which word to use, so therefore I won't use it. But these are different points of view.
Great. Thank you so
Extracted
much.
from
Thank you.
extracted from the same scriptures. So even
That makes
Madhvacharya and those who are attending Gita chanting classes. So we actually read. We started reading. I don't say we started reading from 8th chapter. This book called Gita Praveshaha, and all the meanings here, all the translations have been given in Sanskritam. If anybody is interested, it's a fantastic book. You can order it from sbusa.org if you're in the US. So here actually, it gives Ramanuja Matam and Madhva Matam. And primarily follows Shankaracharya's commentary, but wherever there is a shloka that has a different interpretation, and very rarely happens. So here Madhvacharya has provided this this different commentary. That's how it is written in this book. He nicely gives all the three viewpoints. So for most of the shlokas, we just see one same thing. All three gurus would have said the same. But in one shloka, there is a minor difference. So that's when, Ramanuja Matam. So what Ramanujacharya would have said in Sri Bhasyam, which is his Gita commentary, if he had a different viewpoint, that would be written in that book. So that's the only difference on how these three acharyas have seen, and all three are applicable. So for somebody like a karmi, the most easiest to understand is probably Dvaitam. It's just, from elevating from one part to the other. It's very easy to associate myself with body because that's what I've been doing all since, I've been born. But it takes some thinking to go beyond this body because I've been so used to it. And I give the car analogy, right? I've been sitting in this car for way too long. Now I need to dissociate myself with this body. Not that I will ignore it. I'll keep it healthy because this is my vehicle to pass this janma. But I'm thinking myself to taking us deeper into those. If you remember the Panchakoshas concept, it is taking us deeper into those layers of koshas or deeper layers within us. So until we reach the Anandamaya kosha is the term that we see in Panchakosha concept. So to reach the Atman living, the consciousness within us. And Atman is not very specifically, and recently we've been talking about, focusing on Anahata or Ajna. Atman is everywhere in the universe, but we specifically focus in one point just to get our focus right. And of course, we've seen some other reasons why we focus on Ajna, etc. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question, Anita?
Yes, Shriji, thank you.
And Guruji, I think what you said about the total amount of time we spend in a day and how we practice our daily routine, I think I start in the morning before kids get up and everybody gets up, like in a sattvic mindset. As soon as kids get up, the whole concept of uncertainty increases and my sattvic nature goes down. By evening, I use up all my energy. I think it's like my asuras come out. I'm so mean to my own family, and I think.
So you're saying your day starts as a sattvic and then rajasic and then goes to.
Oh yeah, I am completely asura at the end of the day. I particularly after food goes into my body, it's like I think I transform from good to really ugly. I don't know how many billion years it'll take for me to stabilize into one phase.
That's the lifestyle that we live in, right? Like, nothing wrong with that. It is the grihastha and with younger kids, and I'm more of an empty nester, so I have less of those to deal with. So, but totally understand what you're
And
saying.
then the other thing, I'm pretty much addicted to Gita, but I think I don't practice it very well. That's the problem. I think I read it, and, and in my own life, I think if you ask my family, they'll think I'm the most hypocritic person they ever know.
I actually, I'm a proponent of applied and practical Gita.
Yeah.
And I've been working with some associations to come up with, and actually was at some point I was, giving my husband a proposal on how this is what we are going to execute on, because many people feel the same way. I personally would have felt the same way on how to apply. And I have prepared so many documents for my own sadhana practice, and practice on a daily basis. And when we think about Gandhiji, now with this context of understanding Gita till here, go back to understand what he was doing with his life. Not before he came from South Africa, but once he has come from South Africa, being a politician, why he decided he'll open a Sabarmati ashram, or what the kind of clothes he was wearing and the kind of food that he was eating, or Satya and Ahimsa. His whole life was practical Gita.
Yes, Guruji. And I think that's actually one thing I fail to accomplish pretty much every day. If I have to rank myself, I fail on my test every single day. Not even one day I think I passed.
No, Bhaskar, but that's the reason we are all doing this, right? If we already know and follow it, there's no reason to do all this. So we're learning and try to change every day.
So what I can only say is I'm actually working on, I don't have anything like that is complete package yet, but I've been working on some models on making it practical. Again, I keep saying like everybody would be interested as soon as I say like just let me know if you're interested, but I'm only talking about those who feel this is the knowledge, and I say bold, underline, capitalize the word the knowledge, and want to implement into their lives. And if you have time to implement, because I'm going to ask for homework as well, just put it in the forum. I'd not be selecting a lot of people, but those who are very, very, very serious, committed to do this, I will provide some practical tools to start practicing and sharing with each other on keeping yourself motivated on how to transform one day at a time.
So that'll be great, Guruji. I'll do it. Thank you, Guruji.
It's a commitment.
Yes, Guruji, I will commit myself. Otherwise, there is no point.
I'll hold you to your commitment. That's what I
Yes,
say.
Guruji, I will.
When it comes to that, I'm quite strict about it.
Yeah, definitely, Guruji. I mean, Guruji. Whatever it is, I have to. Otherwise, I think this opportunity of the human body and mindset is lost. I don't know when I'll get the body again.
That's exactly what I keep saying.
I guess the more
Sahasreshu. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I guess the more hurdles you have and more criticism you have, it actually really helps improve yourself or growth, or that's God's way of testing whether you are ready or you continue. Because just like when Padmaji talked about that to all Swamijis no and so on, there are enough people that I have seen that they will taint their image and all that, but still I guess not worried about what others have to say or what others have to feel, because that can happen in the family or outside the four walls. But still having that focus, because you're already in it and you don't want to retract back and fall back because someone else is saying something, I think will really help. Second is the Upanishad you said, Shweta Ketu Chandogya. I didn't know, but I just looked it up.
Yeah. Chandogya. I know.
The third thing.
I was actually hesitating to even upload this video because I initially thought like Chandogya, but then because Shweta Ketu and Shweta Ashwatthana went together.
And the third thing is that please, because there is very little time, if you wanted to answer that Uttarayanam question.
Yeah, Krishnaji is online, so we'll do that as well.
Thank you. So
there's one thing that I wanted to say. What was I saying?
Questions, Sriji, related to this. Manish, Manishina is a different meaning than the regular word, like we call ourselves Manishi. Is there a
Yeah,
difference?
this Manishinaha is Jnani, the one who is the elevated human being.
Okay.
And Taraji, you were trying to speak as well. Sorry, apologies, please. I think I spoke over your voice. I don't know if Taraji is on the line or not. Okay.
I'm here.
So did you have something to share, Taraji?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Sounds good. So the question was from Krishna ji about the shlokas, the two shlokas in chapter 8, and just completely digressing from what we were currently reading. So we will go to 52nd shloka next week, but this is answering a question that he had, or maybe he had some points to make, and I had questions for him. So the two shlokas, 824 and 825, are अग्निर्ज्योतिरः शुक्लः षण्मासा उत्तरायणं तत्र प्रयाता गच्छन्ति ब्रह्मविदो जनाः. That's 24th. And 25th shloka, धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनं तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिर् योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते. So I was saying the translations that were given in Srila Prabhupada's book Gita as it is are quite different and significantly different from the translations that were given by Shankaracharya as well as Ramanujacharya. So I'll read the translations, and which is probably where I felt you might have found it there, Krishnaji. So that's why I wanted to ask those questions. So for the 24th shloka, the meaning that is translated in Gita as it is, those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. This is, somebody who passes away in Uttarayanam. It's saying that person is going to attain Supreme Brahman. And the next shloka, 25 of the 8th chapter, says, the mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. So this is Dakshinayana. So my question was, so what if somebody passes away in Kartika Masam, or during Navaratris, or during Vaikuntha Ekadashi, which is an aspirational day for people, like for people who want Sadgati, to go on moksha. We look forward to Vaikuntha Ekadashi. All these times fall under Dakshinayana. So what Bhagavan has said, oh, you know what, if you, the one the one thing that I'm not in control of is my death. But Bhagavan for some reason will say that if you go away in Uttarayanam, then I will take you to me. But if you pass away in Dakshinayanam, then I will send you to a place where you will return back to life, and somehow you try again to somehow try to die during Uttarayanam, then I can bring you back to me. So isn't that biased, because my death is not in my control? So I could be doing as much sadhana all the time. Somehow I decide to go in Dakshinayanam and will not reach Bhagavan. So that's why I actually wanted to clarify that. So I have taken Swami Gambhirananda's translation of Sri Shankaracharya's commentary. Agnihi, fire, is a deity presiding over the period of time. Similarly, Jyotihi, light, also is a deity presiding over a period of time. Or fire and light are well-known Vedic deities. So whether it is, and we have spoken about this, we have discussed this significantly in our Lalita Sahasranamam classes as well as in the Vishnu Sahasranamam classes. Kalaha is Bhagavan himself. So every Kala has different name, and each Kalaha has a different deity presiding over it. So what it says is I'll ignore some of this, more scholarly stuff. Shukla. So Shuklaha, the bright fortnight, implies the deity presiding over the bright fortnight. Shanmasaha Uttarayanam, the 6 months of the northern solstice here, is understood the deity presiding over the path. So anybody who is following this path, and the path is Vedic path. So anybody, these are presiding deities in all of the Vedic homas, Jata Vedaha, and we have been reading that, Agnihi. So all of these are Vedic deities. Those who follow the processes involved in the Vedic Upanishadic way and those rituals reach Brahman because they are doing it for moksha. In the other shloka, the 25th shloka, this one is a shorter translation, so I'll read that. Dhuman, smoke, and Ratrihi, night, are the deities presiding over smoke and night. Similarly, Krishnaha, the dark fortnight, means the deity of the dark fortnight, the waning moon. Just as before, by Shanmasa Dakshinayinam, the 6 months of the southern solstice, also verily meant a deity. Tatra, following this path, yogi, the yogi who performs sacrifices, the man of actions and the man of results, prapya, having reached, chandramasam, jyotihi, the lunar light, having enjoyed the results of such actions, nivartate, returns on their exhaustion. So based on, again, what is the intention of the activities or the austerities that I am doing and who am I praying to. So if I'm doing the Jata Veda type of my karmas based on Vedic rituals, that is for attaining moksha, attaining Brahman, those rituals, those people who follow that path go to attain Supreme Brahman. Those who are performing based merely for actions that are results oriented, those people will gain punya and attain those Chandraloka and will have to return back to the world. That's how it's been described by both Ramanujacharya as well as Shankaracharya. And I will post, I think, a little more easier commentary than how they write commentaries, which is a little confusing for us when we read. So I'll try to, I don't have the book from the simple translation from Swami Dayananda ji. So I'll try to find those two translations and I'll post it. Does that make sense, Krishna ji? A little more logical?
Thank you very much for saying that, Guruji. I think that is, I always think about death. The older I get, I guess. It always fascinates me, particularly in the line of business what I'm in. I see it quite a bit. So I see a lot of it in front of me happen on a daily basis. So it makes me wonder what happens in their minds and hearts and how that happens. So it always fascinates me. And I heard it in one movie, and it kind of it is very close. I felt very close to that way of description. The two important events in one's life is the time of birth and time of death. It looks like a movie dialogue, but I thought it's very fascinating. It's very fundamental. So it always fascinates me to think about, is it truly a simple path? There is no simple path, no doubt about it. But almost Bhagavad Gita is like a blueprint of how to make yourself better and maybe give yourself a perfect launch to get out.
Yeah. Launchpad. Yes. Nice way to put it. Yes. And actually, anybody who's not on this moksha path probably will think about this conversation as like, oh my, we are preparing for dying. No, that's not what we are doing. We are enjoying our life now, but we don't want to come back because, we know that this is a mix of joys and sorrows. So it's an opportunity for us to take it to the next level. And that's what we are trying to do. And that's what Gita helps us. And I know I love the dialogue too. I don't know exactly where I heard it. I think it extends to say, So birth and death both you don't have any control on, and you can prepare for your birth, but you can at least prepare for your death.
Guruji, Gnani, sorry, go ahead.
So even if you are not following the Vedic ways, and if you are not in that path also, suppose you are dying in the first 6 months, you still go to that, you know.
That's why, that's why Bhagwan did not mean it to say, here's the 6-month window before you, before this 6 months you have to go, otherwise you're coming
Yeah, because
back. So I don't
a lot
think
of
that's what
people,
he
right?
meant.
We see a lot of people dying in the
yes.
first 6 months who are not at all into this.
Exactly. So that's not what he meant. And if you remember, like, in this context of when Gita was given to us, you have to think about how karmas were performed. We know we are talking about grihastha ashrama as, going to work, and, we are making money, and, our stocks and whatnot, right? Our portfolios. But in those days, karmas meant, their Agnihotri karmas, or like, what are the rituals? Like we have already seen those 5 different kinds of karmas. And what Bhagavan is saying is based on what you're doing in your day, what your actual rituals are. So, think in that context. So if we have to bring it to our context today, those who are performing their actions, whether it is their regular duties, at work or in the family, or if you're performing pujas, if you're focused on results, then you get punyas from those results, and then you also may get some papas of those results. And based on these punya papa mix, which is what causes our sanchita karma, and that sanchita karma, in order to burn that sanchita karma, will take birth again, and in that birth we will continue to gain punya and papa again. So it's a continuous cycle. Whereas if we go on a path of the dharma moksha, where we say our actions are just at the feet of Lord, and any prasadam any result that we get is, it's a prasadam for us, and we are not attached to either of those, and we burn our punya papas, then we are only looking at continuing with our life with the prarabdha karma, and burning all the sanchita karma, and the agama karma would not exist. And in that case, I don't have to come back. So that's the other than the Uttarayana path that he's talking about.
Sridevi, you can also look at a different angle as well, right? Rather than looking at the real Shabdartham or the Vyakyartham of that particular 2 paragraphs, maybe you can look at from an offset and look at Vedas and the different stuff as well, right? So if you look at Vedas, look at the Samhitas and Brahmanas and the Aranyakas, which we can group as a Karma Kanda, and keeping the Upanishads as the Jnana Kandam, the sheer volume of the Karma Kandam is so huge, right? When compared with the Jnana Kandam of the actual Veda, which is very small. So this indirectly shows us that one needs to prepare, or one has to go a long way to become a Jnana Yogyartha. And it's a very long and a tedious process, and which ties into what you just explained about Karma Yoga, which helps us to prepare, have the Antakarana Shuddhi, by which is necessary to understand Jnana Yogam. And the reverse, which we can also say, that the Jnana Yogam without understanding Karma Yoga is baseless. And from that perspective, when you look at this Uttarayanam, right? And from Uttarayanam, when you look at North in Vedas, North is always identified as Dhruva Nakshatram, the polar star, the one that's fixed, that's there forever, which is stable, which is permanent. So Swami Chinmayananda gives a little bit of a twist, and he says that why don't we try to seek the North or ascend towards North, is what we are trying to liberate ourselves. You build in the knowledge within yourself, you realize what you are, and you try to achieve that permanence in your life, that particular set in your life. And if you can achieve in this particular lifetime, it is good, or else you keep continuing this lifestyle, because our life, as we consider in Vedanta, is just a cyclical, it's not one ending. So even if it ends, you're just continuously making progress, one step at a time. So the way Swami Chinmayananda spins it is, he looks into the permanence, the eternity, and the stability of the North, and we are just using this Uttarayanam as ascending ourselves towards liberation and knowledge. because south is always associated with a little bit of the lord of death or Yama, right? And that's why when you have Dakshinamurti facing towards south, the only god facing south, we keep saying, oh, he's the controller of death. He's looking on the south side, right? So he said, from Ajnanam, you're going towards Jnana. So it's a continuous path. So this is how he mentions it. And it says it's a very long, tedious process, just like the Karma Kanda example, which we were just mentioning it, and the whole Antakarana Shuddhi and getting to understand the Jnana Yogam takes a long path. So this is that kind of ascending which he talks about.
I think this is
Interesting.
greatly,
Actually,
that's very nicely explained, Shajiji. I think on chapter 6, verse 8, the last one I was just reading, the Gnana Vijnana Triptatma. Then I understood, like, I think as you rightly said, the Vijnana is nothing but Gnana plus Karma Yoga together, self-realized mind. I think without the karma, we'll never self-realize. I think self-realization is a process of doing the Karma Yoga with the Gnana that we acquired, because Gnana is the acquired knowledge, whereas Vijnana is the realized knowledge by performing everything like Karma Yoga and also the penances or the spiritual process, like Guruji explaining it to us. I think that now I understand that Jaya, Vijaya, Jaya is conquering others, Vijaya is conquering myself. Gnana is acquiring knowledge, but using karma together makes it Vijnana, and only then we can. And
we
then
get
the sloka goes, Kutasto Vijayendraha, Vijitendraha. So that means again we have to win over the senses. Without winning over the senses and sitting with the Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi, that you have to be centered within the spiritual knowledge. Then we see Samalosta. That's where all the whole thing of the pebbles and the dirt and the gold all become one. Losta Sma Kanchanaha. I think that's exactly what we are all talking, if I understand
And
it right.
even look at the Panchakoshas too, right? The Panchakoshas go the same too. You start with Annam, you go with Pranam, you go with Jnanam, you go with Vijnanam, then you go with the Anandamayam, right? The absolute Sachidanandamayam bliss. So that is the way we should be, I feel, that is the way we should be looking at it, rather than looking at the Shabdartham and Vyakyartham and, reading word by word. It gives a totally different meaning, which I personally feel it's not a good way to look at it. Anyway, that's my personal take.
Correct. So Vakyardham and Lakshyardham, which we have talking about. So I'll look into Chinmayananda's. I was just trying to find that shloka very much, Mahoday. I did not realize Chinmayananda would have provided anything outside of what Shankaracharya has provided. I know he usually just for the lineage is just to follow, right? So this is a new one that I did not read it in Shankaracharya. So I'm interested in. I was just scrolling through that PDF to look for that particular shloka. That's an interesting twist.
Thank you, Guruji and Shajiji.
Awesome. Any final thoughts before we conclude? Oh yeah, there's one more thing that I wanted to mention. I think Anuji said, the various activities that happen in our life, and to Padmaji's question about, I hope, I wish everybody gets this knowledge together. So, and I'm assuming in 90% of the families, it's not usual that everybody is interested in the same topic. As we were saying, everybody goes through that cycle. And Swamiji actually says, even if if a person is forced to drop the wife to the class, that person leaves the chapels outside and his brain outside too, and comes sits here and just keep yawning and waiting for his wife and just wait her saying okay, is it time, can we go? So even if that knowledge is presented to them, it just doesn't filter through, is how Swami Paramarthanandaji jokes about it. So everybody has their time to go through it. What I will also add is every scenario that gets presented to us is very custom made, tailor-made curriculum for us, that Bhagavan says, okay, this you have, you're fighting ego, you're fighting raga dveshas. So all of these are beautiful curriculum for us on every scenario that gets presented, and how we are going to respond to those scenarios. Being karma yogis, it has to be very different than what it would have been before you started studying Gita. With that thought, we'll conclude with Shanti Mantra. पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ सर्वं श्रीमन्नारायण चरणारविन्दार्पणमस्तु. Thank you so much for your time and the extra 13 minutes. We'll catch up later.
Thank you,
Thank
Guru.
Thank you very much, Vijay.
We were elevated from our chairs, if not any more higher.